Good evening and welcome to today's segment of Paella Valencia. My name is Chef Sue Gonsalves from the Institute of Culinary Education. I'm just going to give you guys a chance to get all of your ingredients together while we're waiting for more people to tune in to our class. And I hope you guys get if you guys are cooking along with me, just make sure you have all of your ingredients. Your chicken is out on a tray. You have all your ingredients already measured, so you could be able to cook along with me. We're going to be making Paella Valenciana, and we're also going to be making pan con tomate, which is made with tomatoes on crostini, and it gets served with anchovies on top. So hi guys, welcome again to the Institute of Culinary Education. Today in our Paella Valenciana, we're featuring one of our main ingredients, which is saffron. A lot of you, or some of you, have worked with saffron before. This is what it looks like. And it comes from a crimson flower or a purple flower, and the stamens, is what when it gets picked and then it gets dried, and that turns into saffron. Saffron also, as they say, originated in Iran. We're still questioning that, but Iran actually produces 90% of the world's saffron. It comes from a crocus plant. And it is also, you could also find saffron is also grown in parts of China. You could get it in it's grown in the Mediterranean, in northern Europe, and also India. It's one of the most expensive spices in the world because it's hand-picked. And it has a bitter-like taste, bitter-like, hay-like taste, and it's also used for, people use it for dyeing clothes and all that stuff, and it's also used for medicinal purpose, but it's also mainly used for cooking. So let's get started. We're gonna start with, make sure you have all your ingredients out. You need bumber rice, you need roasted red peppers, you need frozen green peas, you need scallions, lemon juice, onions, wine, and all of that stuff. So we're gonna be making, it's gonna have chicken, chorizo, and also shrimp. So I wanna do a little bit of knife skills with you guys so you could cook along with me. So let's cut up some of the stuff that we need. One of them are onions. I'm going to show you guys how to cut this up. We're going to cut the stem end off. Cut this in half. Take the first 2 layers off. And we're just going to finely mince this. If your onions are large, you just need like half of that. So we have our onion. I also have some onions that are cut up. So this is my 1 onion that I finely chopped. I have my onions, I have my bay leaves, I have my scallions. I'm going to show you guys how to cut that. You want to cut the root end off. So when you're making a dish like this, you want to make sure that you prep all of your stuff and just have it ready. So it makes cook along really easy. But for those of you that didn't cut up your stuff, I'm really happy to show you some knife skills work here. I have my scallions. I'm gonna add this to my bowl right here. We have garlic cloves. We need 4 garlic cloves. We just want to smash them. So we're going to smash it, take the skin off, and I'm not going to slice them. I just need them smashed. Just want the flavor from the garlic. So guys, with a dish like this, you have to make sure you measure and prep everything. So it makes your cooking time much more enjoyable and easy. So I have my garlic. I'm just gonna cut the root end off of this here. Because I just wanted it to be smashed. Just want a little bit of the garlic flavor. Gonna come back, slightly smash that. And I have my garlic. Then we need roasted red peppers. You could buy your peppers from a can, or you could actually take your peppers, put it on an open flame, and just roast it until it's nice and charred around here like that. We need 2 peppers, finely diced. Make sure you get all the seeds out of that. And then we're just gonna cut it in strips. And cut it into smaller pieces. So one of the things with making paella and using something like saffron, we need to infuse our saffron. So infusing means we're gonna bloom it. It's called blooming by adding it to your chicken stock, putting it on the stove, getting it nice and hot, covering it for like 15 minutes. And then it's gonna bring out all the beautiful color and flavor. And that's my peppers right here. The next thing that I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna get a saucepan. We need 6 cups of chicken broth or chicken stock. And we need a half a teaspoon or a nice big pinch of saffron. It goes on the stove. We're gonna get the chicken broth nice and hot so that infuse for like 15 minutes, like I said. And we also need chopped parsley. Make sure you wash your parsley. Make sure you wrap it in a paper towel, get it nice and dry before you chop it. Take the thicker stems out. And we could totally use the younger stems. They have a lot of flavor. Beautiful. The next thing we're going to talk about is the rice that we're going to use to make this dish here. So what are some of the rice that you could use to make paella? The main one is called bomba rice. It comes from the region of Valencia, and it's a short grain rice. It's heavily coated with saturated with starch. And when you cook paellas, you guys are gonna see, you don't need to stir your rice. You wanna have that nice crispy bottom. That's called sucra. It's like the crispy, the burnt bottom at the bottom of your paella. That has a lot of flavor. So if you can't find bomba rice, you could totally substitute this with arborio rice. It's gonna give you the same texture. But if you could find bomba rice, that's always gonna be your first choice, okay? So this is what we're gonna be using. And then we need lemon juice. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're gonna squeeze our lemons. And this is about all of the veggies that we need to get cut up. The next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna cut our chorizo. So guys, you know, we're gonna work with the chicken. I'm gonna pan sear the chicken. I'm gonna cut the chorizo, but we needed to get all of our vegetables and onions and stuff prepped because we don't wanna cross-contaminate. So I finished with all of that. I'm gonna go ahead and take my chorizo. We're gonna slice this. So you wanna cut that off. Cut both ends off, and we're gonna cut it in like 1/4-inch circles.
Chef, how many lemons did you use?
I squeezed 1 lemon, the juice of 1 lemon. If your lemons are small, you could juice 2 lemons instead. But if your lemons are large, you just need 1 lemon. You could totally use, if you're making paella, you want to make sure you have chicken thighs. Chicken thighs take a longer to cook, and it doesn't get overcooked. So chicken thighs would be the best. You could totally do bone-in chicken thighs or bone-out chicken thighs, whichever one you have.
And Chef, what kind of sausage are you using?
I'm using chorizo. You could have used the Mexican chorizo that has a lot of flavor also.
And if you bought ground chorizo instead of the links, should you cook it separately before incorporating it later, or how would you recommend using that?
If you have ground chorizo, you would want to cook it separately and then add it to your paella because it's going to get overcooked. So you're still going to have that flavor. Just cook it in a separate pan and just add it to the paella with all of the juices and everything to retain that flavor.
And we have a question about saffron. Do all recipes that use saffron require the blooming process that you talked about?
You have to, because saffron is just the stamen. It's dried. And in order to get the color and the flavor, you have to reconstitute it in hot stock, hot water. It all depends on what you're using it for. So my saffron is already bloomed, and I'm just gonna put it to the side right here. I'm also gonna cover to infuse my flavor, and let it hang out until I'm ready to use it.
And is it okay to use chicken thighs and chicken breast, or is one better than the other?
If you're doing a dish like this, you want to make sure that you use chicken thighs. Chicken breast is going to be overcooked. That's the tenderest part of the chicken. So you don't want to use chicken breast for this here.
And would you use chicken thighs with the skin on or skin off?
Absolutely skin on. You want to have that flavor. When it's finished cooking, if you don't like chicken skin, you could remove it when you're eating it, but you want to have skin for flavor.
And one more question. Can you make this dish with only seafood? Are there other types of seafood you could put in, or would you make it any differently?
This is a great question. You could totally make vegetable paella. You could also make just seafood paella. You could do mussels, clams, oyster. You could do all of that stuff. So you could totally mix and match whatever you want to put in your paella. Paella Valenciana is just it's original to Valencia. So this is like one of the most popular paella dish that people make, but you could totally do your style. Vegetarian, you could do just seafood if you wanted to. So now we have all of our stuff already cut up and prepped and ready to go. Our saffron is fully infused. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pan sear our chicken thighs. So if you guys notice, I left the skin on mine because I want flavor. We're gonna season this with some salt and pepper, and then we're gonna pan sear it. So the beauty with paella is that you want to use just one pan for cooking this. I'm gonna lightly season my chicken thighs, a pinch of kosher salt.
Chef, if you only have chicken breasts, is there a way to cook them in this dish so that they're not dry?
Okay, if you only have chicken breasts and you want to make this dish, don't cut it up. You want to keep it, if they're small chicken breasts, you want to keep them whole. So they're going to cook and they're not going to dry out. Or you cut them in big pieces. So I'm adding some salt and black pepper to my chicken thighs. I'm going to turn this over because I want to season both back and front. Be a little generous when you're seasoning because you want your chicken to have flavor. Okay, so I have my chicken thighs already seasoned.
About how long does it take start to finish to make paella?
Paella is like risotto. It takes like 25 to 30 minutes from the start to finish process.
And is there a specific type or brand of saffron that you're using?
Oh,
or that you recommend?
This is one of the brand that we use at Ice here. It's like it's called Saffron. If you guys are looking for good saffron, you want to go to a place. If you live in New York City, it's called Calustians. Just look it up on Google. It's like a spice market. That's where you're gonna get the best saffron. So how do you know that you're getting great saffron? It's the price. Saffron is really expensive. You wanna have that nice strong smell. It has to be a dark color like this. And you got to think about saffron comes from a lot of places. So it's all going to look a little different, but most of them have that nice dark, that crimson look about them. So, and just the price is going to tell you that you're getting the good stuff also. You could find good saffron on Whole Foods, at Whole Foods, any specialty market. You go on Amazon, you're going to get good stuff there also. And I would, if you live in New York City, or just go to Calustians, where you're going to get the good stuff. So now we're going to start making our paella. This is a paella pan. If you don't have a pan like this, it's supposed to be light, not really thick, because you want to have the crust from the rice there. If you don't have this at home, you could use any large saute pan or skillet. We're gonna start by pan searing our chicken. So you want to put your burner at medium. If you're using a paella pan, it's going to become really hot. So that's why you don't want to blast it on high heat, because your chicken is going to burn. So medium high, we're going to go ahead and add some olive oil to this here. Lightly coat the bottom. And then we're going to pan sear this when it gets hot. You want to see smoke coming out from your pan, but you also don't want your pan to burn, okay?
Chef, what's the shelf life of saffron? And then could you just say the name of that saffron again?
Saffron tea. I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to hold it this way here. Could you see it? Yeah. So saffron stays in a nice, cool, dry place for a long time, months and months. It would stay, you want to just keep it in a cool, dark place in your cupboard. And it's going to last you for a very, very long time. When you place your chicken thighs in there, you want to make sure that you hear a sizzle. It means that your pan is nice and hot and you're going to get a nice golden color. All right, see wisps of smoke. I'm going to turn my heat down a little. And you're going to do skin side down. You hear that sizzle? That's what you're looking for. We're going to cook it for a few minutes until it's nice and golden brown. Then we're going to flip it. And once that's done, we're going to add the chorizo to that. Now we're going to add the onions and all the other stuff that follows. So the beauty of making paella is everything goes into one pan, is that once the chicken is pan seared, you don't have to remove it from the pan. You just start adding your layers of flavor. If you try to pick this up like right away, because it's not caramelized on the bottom, it's gonna start sticking to the pan. So you have to give it some time and just let it cook until the skin is golden brown. Make sure you swirl your pan, so make sure you get all that, the oil is like distributed evenly.
Chef, a lot of recipes sometimes will say a pinch of saffron. Other than it being an expensive ingredient, are there any downsides to using too much saffron? Will that impact the flavor?
If you use too much, because it has a medicinal, it has that hay-like, bitter-like taste, it could overpower your dish. So you just wanna, that is why recipes always ask you to do a nice large pinch of saffron, because you don't want to put too much.
And then one other question, some folks at home have chicken breasts instead of chicken thighs. So they're wondering if they should still be preheating the paella pan and browning the chicken breasts now.
Okay, there's a way around this. You could totally preheat your pan, cook your chicken breast, and you could actually remove it from the pan. And then you could add it back halfway through the cooking time. So that way it's not going to get overcooked. So you're still going to have the flavor, you're still going to have that flavor at the bottom of your pan.
And how high is the heat that you're using right now?
I'm using medium high. Like medium.
Is that the same for people at home, since sometimes the burners might not get as hot?
BTUs are much more lower, so you would want to go high to get your chicken, give your chicken a nice crust at the bottom. You want a color like that. So this is a beautiful color that you're looking at right here.
How long have you been teaching at ICE, and what kinds of things do you teach here?
Well, I have been at ICE for a very long time. I actually went to school here, I think like 19 years ago. I teach in the recreational program, and we do a lot of corporate parties here. So I have been teaching rec classes for the past, I would say 13 to 14 years now.
And what made you want to get into cooking? Or like what? Yeah. What's your culinary journey?
I was always very interested in everything, a lot of different foods. I grew up in an Indian home where we cooked a lot of Indian food, and I wanted to do fine dining. So when I came to America, like 21 years ago, I came right to ICE and I went to school here. I did my culinary program, I did my pastry program, I went out, I worked in a few restaurants, but along my career path, teaching was what I absolutely love. And today I'm still enjoying what I do. So this is your chicken. So once you want to have a color like that, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our chorizo. We want to get these nice and golden brown also. So guys, at this stage, once your chicken is already pan-seared, you want to lower your heat because you don't want to burn your sausages, okay? Keep it medium low. We're going to cook this until the sausages are nice and golden. And then we're going to go ahead and add our onions.
Chef, how would you recommend adjusting this dish for people who are gluten-free?
Question again, how would I recommend?
How would you adjust this dish for people who are gluten-free?
Oh, easy. Everything here is, if you guys eat, if you eat proteins, everything here is gluten-free. We have onions, we have rice. Rice is totally gluten-free. We have peppers, scallions, garlic. Everything here is gluten-free. So once the sausage has been cooked, we're gonna add our onions. Garlic. And scallions. Wanna also add a roasted peppers. And we're gonna cook this until the onions are nice and soft. Make sure your pan has enough oil. If you see that it's dry at the bottom, just add a little more olive oil to this here. It's looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and just sprinkle a tiny bit, a pinch of salt around here. Add a little touch of black pepper because you want to be able to season up your food. Make sure it has enough flavor. So I'm gonna allow this to cook for a minute or so until the onions are nice and soft. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add the rice. We're also gonna add our lemon juice, green peas, bay leaves, half of our parsley, and we're gonna add some white wine. We're gonna add our saffron. So, oh my God, look at this here. Look at how beautiful this looks. Nice and nice color. The saffron is already bloomed, so this has a lot of flavor right here. I'm gonna add my bay leaves right now. You need 2 bay leaves. I'm gonna add my rice. I wanna add my white wine. And lemon juice. We're gonna add the green peas. And half of our parsley. We're gonna leave the other half for garnishing. And then I'm gonna pour the stock in. I wanna make sure that I stir this together because once I get this nicely mixed, thoroughly mixed, and I add my stock, I don't wanna be stirring it again because I wanna have that nice crust at the bottom. So this is where you wanna make sure that it's seasoned well. I'm gonna add some more salt, a little more black pepper, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add my stock. We're gonna cook this for 20 minutes uncovered, and then we're gonna add the shrimp, peeled and deveined shrimp. We're gonna add that and cover it and cook it for like 5 to 7 more minutes. No, you don't have to soak bumbo rice. If you make it with cauliflower rice, you don't have to cook it for that long time. Yes.
And then can you can you take out the sausage if you want? Like, can you add in other kinds of proteins?
You could add whatever you want. Like, you don't want to add something that's going to take longer to break down. That's like chicken. It's like a really great way to go. If you're adding any other thing, just make sure you cut it thinner.
If we're using fresh bay leaves, how many would you recommend to add?
If you're using fresh bay leaves, I would just put 1 bay leaf. Yes.
And what do you think about adding turmeric to this dish?
Well, actually, that's a great question. Now, if you don't have saffron, actually the Indian saffron is called turmeric. If you don't have saffron, you could totally substitute with turmeric. It's going to give it that color. So, and turmeric also has a flavor of its own. So you could totally substitute turmeric.
Are there any substitutions for the wine that you used?
If you don't want to use wine, you could add a little bit of white wine vinegar just to kind of add some depth to flavor to that.
And if you were cooking this on a grill, is there a different, like, would you change the cooking process in any way?
I would, if you're cooking this on a grill, you want to make sure that your pan is heavy bottom so that it's not gonna, everything is not gonna burn. And you want to watch your heat on the grill. You want to keep it at low, medium low. Time me 20 minutes. All right, so while we're waiting for 20 minutes on our paella, we're gonna start with the pan con tomate. You need a box grater. You need a bowl. And our recipe says 4 tomatoes, but guys, look at the size of this tomato. So I'm gonna use this as 2 tomatoes. So we have, so you need 4 tomatoes. We need half of a baguette and anchovies. That's for the finishing, and also garlic.
Chef, how hot is your burner now while you're letting the paella cook?
I have it on, I put it on medium because I want to get rid of some of that liquids. If I keep it too low, it's gonna take really, really long. So medium heat.
And if you were using turmeric, would you need to let it bloom?
No, you don't have to bloom turmeric. You just add it to whatever it is because it's already a powder, so you don't have to bloom that. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna make our crostini. So you wanna put your ovens at 350 to 375. We're gonna, you could get any crusty bread. And we're gonna cut them like a 1/2 inch thick using a bread knife. We're gonna toast these in the oven. We don't need to season it with any salt, pepper, olive oil. We're gonna toast it, and when it comes out of the oven, we're gonna brush it with a garlic clove to give it that nice flavor. You need a cookie sheet with parchment. We're gonna place these on your baking sheet. We're gonna toast these for like 4 to 5 minutes. In my oven, it's gonna take less time because I'm using a commercial oven. In your oven, it's gonna take like 4 to 5 minutes until it's nice and golden brown. All right, so this goes into my oven.
Chef, for the paella, could you use half turmeric and half saffron?
You totally can. Gonna get a whole new flavor profile there, but it totally works.
And then for the pan con tomate, is there an alternative that you could use instead of anchovies?
You can actually, I mean, there's no substitution for anchovies, but if you want to make it, flavorful, you could actually make a garlic, chopped parsley, olive oil, and a little bit of capers to add some flavor to that.
And are your anchovies preserved in salt or olive oil?
My anchovies are actually salt cured, so they're packed in sea salt. So if you have anchovies like this, you want to rinse it before you use it. And if you have the one in oil, you don't need to rinse that. All right, so let's start with our tomato. We're gonna cut the ends off. We're just gonna cut it in half. Guys, then you're gonna take your box grater, you're gonna look for the big holes, and you're gonna put your cut half tomato like this, and you're just gonna grate this until the skin is left in your hands. All right, done. See how easy that was? And this is what you're left with right here. My tomatoes were really huge. You could totally use beefsteak tomatoes or plum tomatoes, tomatoes on the vine, anything that's ripe. Now, when you grate tomatoes like this, you're left with a lot of liquid in here. So what I suggest, what I normally do is just kind of drain it out a little. By using a strainer. So that way it's not gonna be liquidy. And then you have tomato juice right here. You could make a cocktail with this here. Let's take a look at our paella. Oh, the liquid is starting to, see, I'm stirring it, but I'm not digging at the bottom. I just want to make sure that it's not burning. And the rice is really cooking. You really don't need to stir this dish. Just keep it at a nice medium low heat and just let it cook. Good. We're gonna also need garlic for this dish here. We just want to smash this. Take the skin off. And then once the crostini comes out of the oven, we're gonna rub the garlic on it. And guys, for this dish here, you could use any kind of bread. Like I said, any kind of crusty bread. You could use sesame loaves also. I'm gonna cut the ends off. And then I'm just gonna slice this in the center. So it's easier. I have more flavor like this when I just kind of rub it on my bread. Okay, here comes the crostini. Beautiful. So it came out nice and hot. It's nice and crispy. Right away, you just grab your garlic and you just put this. I put this on my board right here. Just want to make sure you get enough garlic flavor in here. Well, if you've used a whole baguette, you got a lot of rubbing to do with this garlic here. So we just use half of a baguette. All right, I think I got most of my bread here. Rubbed with my garlic. And we're gonna go ahead and plate this dish. Looks really nice, smells really good. I want to season this with some salt and pepper right here. Some good Spanish olive oil. Nice little drizzle. Mix that up. And if you like anchovies, here we go. Nice extra drizzle of olive oil. And why not a touch of salt? And some chopped parsley, just for color, garnish. And there you go, my friends, pan con tomate. All right, let's look back at our paella. About 20 minutes. So this is where we want to add our seafood. If you have added your shrimp before, then you would have gotten really overcooked shrimp. So we're gonna stick the shrimp in between in the in the rice like this here. And then we're gonna cover this and let it cook for 5 to 7 minutes. There we go. Remember what we're looking for. We want to have a nice crusty bottom here. I'm going to go ahead and take this. I don't have a lid for my paella pan, so the best choice is just grab a piece of tin foil. And we're going to cover this. 7 minutes until the shrimp is cooked.
Chef, did you add all of the broth into the paella?
I did. I add most of the broth.
So
I left a little bit just in case we might need to add it at the end. So I always leave a little bit of broth back at the end.
would you recommend blooming the saffron in a smaller bowl of broth so that if you don't use all the broth, you use all the saffron?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Smart, and it makes sense.
And can you freeze this paella?
You could freeze it for a few days, but you don't want to freeze it for over a week or so because it has proteins inside.
And then how long will it just last in the refrigerator?
Oh, it would last a few days in the refrigerator. Yes, because your proteins are already cooked. Guys have gotten to cook along with me while I was prepping everything. So you got a chance to really make paella from scratch.
Can you use a cartouche instead of the foil to cover the paella?
You could use a cartouche, yes.
Would you mind explaining what a cartouche is?
A cartouche is just like a you put like you could do it with cheesecloth, you could do it with wax paper, and it goes at the top, and you could make a tiny little hole.
And if you were making paella with like rabbit or snails, when would you add those proteins in?
Rabbit is like chicken. It takes, you want to add it, you want to pan sear it and add it just the way you would add chicken. And snails, you don't want to overcook your snails. So you would add it like you're adding your shrimp.
And about how many people does this dish serve?
This dish is safely going to serve 6 people. It's 3 cups of rice.
If you weren't adding shrimp, would you still put the foil on top?
I wouldn't put the foil on top. I would just open it up and just let it cook. Okay, we have about 3 more minutes to check on our paella. I hope you guys cook along your pan con tomate with me. Make sure your bread is nicely toasted. Your garlic cloves are rubbed on there. You could, and then you season up your tomato like I did. You add your anchovies. You could also add a little bit of lemon juice to this if you wanted to add some flavor to this here.
Could you make this paella with a whole lobster?
You mean if the lobster has been cut up? Yes. You totally can. So what's a whole lobster? You get the lobster tail and some, it's not a lot. So you could totally make this with a whole lobster.
And can you please explain when the paella should be cooked uncovered and when to cover it?
Okay, the paella gets cooked for 20 minutes uncovered like we did. And then I cover it because I was adding shrimp. So I wanted my shrimp to cook. So 20 minutes plus the next 7 minutes, that'll be like 27 minutes.
And what dessert would you serve this with?
I serve this with, this would go really well because this is like a really rich dish. So I would serve this with fruits.
And are there any other tapas that you like that you could make, to go on along with this themed dinner?
Yeah. Oh, I would make a vegetable tapas. I would do artichokes if it's in season. I would do green peas. So there's a lot of different vegetables that you could add to this dish here.
Where can you buy a paella pan and what do you look for in one?
All right. So any kind of light pan, you could pick up a paella pan. You go to Amazon, just put in paella pans and a lot of options are going to come up. You could also go to, you could get paella pans at Macy's. I mean, a lot of people do online shopping these days. So you could pretty much get anything on Amazon. And you're looking for something really light. It has to be big and round and it has 2 handles and you need light.
And what level heat do you have the paella at now?
I have my paella at medium heat. To show you guys. Have it at medium heat. Because I want to have a little crust, but I don't want my paella to burn.
And if you were using a cast iron pan for this recipe, what size would you recommend?
The biggest size, if you're going to do this amount of rice, and if you're a 12-inch scale, a 12-inch cast iron pan. But if you're using a cast iron pan, cast iron gets really hot, so you really have to watch your heat. But a cast iron is a really great pan to cook paella in also. All right, it's been like 7 minutes. I'm going to uncover my paella. Oh, beautiful. Look at this here. Lovely. I take my tin foil off. My shrimp is perfectly cooked. My rice looks really good. And my paella is finished. I don't want to upset the bottom, but I'm going to show you. You need a little crust at the bottom. So anytime you cook with bay leaves, the first thing you want to do is remove that from your pan. You want to get rid of that. I'm going to bring my paella over here for you guys to see. And there you go, guys. I was going to plate this up for you, but paella should be eaten from the pan that it's cooked from. So, guys, and this brings our segment of paella cooking. So, this is what it looks like. I'm going to taste it. Oh my God, delicious. Amazing. Guys, I want to say thank you very much for tuning into this segment and hope to see you next time. Have a great evening.